All right, it's time to get that in here. So it's a little bit of a process. First thing you're gonna do, take off, well, kill the battery power, just to make this easy so you don't shock yourself with, even though it's 12 volt. Undo the battery, and then we're gonna take out the starter. I'm gonna go ahead and take the exhaust off, drive shaft, disconnect this here for the transmission, which something must have been slinging out of it. Connectors, but again, there's no exact process. Take off this ground, undo the lines. I'll cap those off for now. Then I'll let all the fluid go out, but I've got caps that go on those. Try to make this a little bit easier. Yeah, and then I'll have to also remove this. We'll see if that needs to come out fully. So, a couple things here. Not the end of the world. This thing is so crusty underneath. Look at this. Compared to my car now, it's just, can't wait to redo all this next. So I went ahead and pulled the drive shaft. This is a custom drive shaft from this company here called Axle Exchange. Guys, they're based out of New Jersey, and they'll literally make you anything and get it done in a couple days. Nothing against Drive Shaft Shop. Actually, screw it. I'm not holding back. Drive Shaft Shop has nothing but issues, man. These guys are great. They're a father and son group. They're good people. Again, Axle Exchange. There's their number. They're based out of Fairfield, New Jersey, and just call. They're nice. They're good people. And as you can see, they can make carbon fiber, aluminum, steel. You name it, they can make it however you want it to be made. So I needed a custom drive shaft. And the best part is the prices are cheaper. So you get a better quality, faster turnaround, and you don't have to deal with Drive Shaft Shop. It's awesome. And also, I do not get this for free. I don't get their parts for free. So this is just me saying, like, hey, if you want something, again, this is a small, you can see how tiny it is. They kind of just wanted to prove it out. It's been great, but I'm going to probably get an aluminum one this time. Maybe I will get another carbon fiber. Just do like a 2.5, maybe a 3-inch this time around, because I think this is only a 2-inch drive shaft. We went really small because I said for the power, and they said this is stronger. So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, and you can see they put a slip joint because it's solid to solid there, so they put a slip in it. I was very, very, very happy with the quality. So just wanted to show that. Next I'm going to do though is go ahead. You can see the exhaust is off too. I'm going to loosen up these fittings and let some of the fluid out. Now, my understanding is the AA80E uses specific fluid, and I was using generic stuff in this, so I'm going to try and drain the whole thing. So I'm probably gonna have to take off the cooler up front, completely drain this out, which is not the most fun thing, but if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. So let's start with this rear fitting here, start letting it down. I'm gonna take this clamp off too. All right, guys, so a lot has happened. As you can see, the transmission's out. You can see the sensor port there that I used to see the gears. It doesn't show you fourth, I believe, but it doesn't matter because you're not putting really a ton of pressure in fourth. You can see the 12-pin connector, since this is the VVTi, or I call it the late model transmission. Yeah, I gotta take this donut off because apparently it fits that one. I don't think it will, maybe it will. If it does, that'd be great. So now I don't have to buy that, and all I need is literally a drive shaft, and I can tell them the bolt pattern this uses, and I'll be good to go. Like that, if that's the case, that'll be awesome. Like it'll save me a ton of time. Again, I gotta take the dipstick out yet. The other thing I had to do when I took all this out, it's fine, I had no problems, but this adapter plate, which I think I kind of mentioned, we did have a little bit of a snafu right here, which I had read about. It's close to downpipe. Now this is a 4-inch downpipe. I think if you had a 3.5 or definitely a 3-inch, you'd be fine. But you're gonna have to cut this tab off and then do it on the transmission too. I need to clean this up yet, but you're gonna need to clap that or lop that off. It's not the end of the world, but you're gonna have to do that just to get it to be able to fit in there properly. Again, it was never designed for this, so that's one thing you're gonna have to do. The other thing here is I wanted to make sure this is all clean, so cleaned everything out, got all this cleaned out here. Again, I need to clean, these edges are a little sharp. I don't want that like that because that's gonna be, I don't know, just meh. Yeah, there's nothing else, I think. Next thing I'm gonna do is take that transmission off. I'm gonna put it up on the shelf somewhere, find a spot for it here, put this up on that, which this thing is a tank, so I might need a second person before I do all that. Yeah, trying to think if there's anything else. This dipstick here, I have to remove it so it bolts. It's hard to see, but it bolts right up there to the intake manifold. So I think now is the good time to do it because I can honestly get to it from down here, use a 12-tooth ratchet and pull this off at least. Again, it's kind of nice because it's one less thing in the way. Yeah, this is, honestly, I think it's great. So just removed this off the A340 here and got some good news. It fits right on and the hose line up. Look at that, boom. Oh, a little bit off there. Look at that, fits up perfect. So if you have an A340 donut, you don't have to buy that either. Another thing that makes this transmission great, closer to the A340, which is what I like. So I'm gonna bolt this back up here real quick, and then let's go ahead and try and install this. We'll see how this goes. I don't have anyone to help me here today, so hopefully this goes decently smooth. We'll see. All right, guys, it's time here. I'm not gonna record trying to get this in just because I know it's going to be tight. And I'm doing it by myself because I don't have anyone here right now. So I'm hoping for the best here. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm probably gonna take these fittings off too for now, just so I can see if I need to have them on, but I don't wanna get them smashed if they don't fit and I gotta try something else. Let's hope this works, guys. I'm hoping this fits. And just like that, she's in. And I forgot how much easier it is to install an automatic transmission it is compared to a manual. This is awesome. It like literally bolted right up. It's so nice that for once, like having parts that fit perfectly. Now, the only issue that we did have, and it's not an issue, I want to make sure it's crystal clear here, he's already revising this, was the trans mount. He's like, I'm so sorry, I made one, calculation off. He's like, I'll make sure this is coming forward. Another thing he's going to do with the trans mount, besides moving it forward here, so it lines up with these bolt holes here, is I had asked him if he could curve this forward or push this forward more, because I know guys with our 4-inch exhaust, they come out through here. I said, hey man, just so you don't have people try and modify it, it's just one less thing you have to be requested, or it'll be an issue, or someone contact you. Just push this forward. So literally, he's going to take this and shift it forward. So it'll be back here. It'll come like this. It'll come out and come back to this instead of just going out like this. So for the 4-inch exhaust, so we move the whole way up here. So this back piece won't be here. So it'll line up like factory. Yes, it does sit down because of these spacer blocks, but it's not anywhere close to the exhaust. I already checked it. That's not a problem. It's literally this cut back right here where PHR, ETS, every exhaust company cuts it right there, where factory cut it. So I just asked that. So it was almost a blessing that this didn't fit in a way, because if not, he would have had all those made and been like, oh shit. So had that adjusted. But everything else, again, besides the 4-inch exhaust part, which I told him when he gets his new brackets made, just don't even have that on his, and you guys will have to just cut the bell housing on this, which again, I took literally, if it took me longer than 5 minutes, I don't even think it took me that long because it's aluminum, so you cut through it like butter, but it cut right off. And again, it doesn't even need to be perfect, but that's just to clear the 4-inch exhaust. And mine needs to be, right now it's sitting too far this way, I need to pull it over. But yeah, I even got a V-band on, I got the exhaust on earlier, so it'll fit, but everything bolts up. I just need to put the rest of the bolts in. Some of these holes you don't use, like, so I'll use this one here. This one doesn't have one because there's a bolt on this side. But then I'll put one here. There's a bunch up top I got to do yet. So yeah, very, very happy. Now, one thing I'm going to show you guys, I've already cut this down. The rod will fit and it'll fit through here, but you'll notice it is very close. This rod is also close. This is the whole way back in park. If you put the whole way in drive and I put pressure on it, it still does not touch this. Move the transmission around. It's still got about this much room. So I wanted to make sure the tran's moving back and forth, up and down, side to side, left, right, side, never mind. Anyways, will fit perfectly fine. So it is close to it here. There is a little gap. But again, that's up and down, and this is all soft area here, so I can actually move up if necessary. So again, you're putting a massive transmission in. This is kind of part of the game, but no modifications, and I mean no modifications to the body whatsoever. I wanted to be able to show you guys there is plenty of room. Like, it's not even just like a little bit. There's plenty of room. Like all my fittings I was worried about hitting, look at that. All this fits perfect. Like, I'm beyond happy. Same thing over here. Those tabs, I probably could have got away without cutting them off. I went ahead and did it. You can see there, I didn't have to. I shaved them down. I should not cut them off, but I shaved them down. But yeah, I'm very, very happy. This fits just like an A340. It's freaking awesome. And I already got the shifter lever here, so you can see it's on. I'm gonna have this cut and then weld it up here. So this will be something, and I can get the length for him then when this is all said and done, if he wants to make something like that for us. But again, that'd be super specific to the Mark IV. So I'm not sure if he wants to make those or not. I know the trans mount was already pretty specific, but that mount up there obviously goes to any 2J. So that's it. That is it. Getting the mount fits. Next up is drive shaft, which for the length, I've already got it. It's 40.5 inches. I ordered one from Axle Exchange. I'm working on one that keeps it in this area here, this 4-bolt area, keeping it as small as possible to keep it again away from this. We'll see if I have to bend this out. Again, I'll keep you posted on that. So 40.5 inches is the total drive shaft length from the face of this billet donut to the face of this billet donut, okay? So 40.5 inches is the total length. And yeah, I'm beyond happy. Next up now is the wiring, which I've already started. And I'll cut over to the clip here now. All right, so we're gonna start some wiring here. We're gonna start with the Prindle, which is park, reverse, neutral, drive, low, all that good stuff. So maybe I actually turn this off. It might actually be a little bit better. I just wish I had a little bit better low light down here, but this is your Prindle connector. It's the black connector. It might be gray, depending on where you get it from. But before you can depin it, these little white pieces here, see those in there? You're gonna need to pull those out. And I wanna see if I can do this one-handed. But when you pull it out, you just need to, it's gonna be hard, but see how it's sitting flush in there? Get a pick like this, something like that, and just get on the low part of it. see if I can show this. This is not going to work. You just need to, I'll show you here. I'll literally do it while you guys are looking at the bottom. I pulled on it there, and then see how it slides out. So literally I just took this pick, okay, took this pick on the bottom side of it here, went boop, barely put any pressure, and it popped up. Now from here, again, I can't use these pins, but I'd rather depin it so I have as much wire as possible. I'm going to cut them and then crimp them. I took pictures of where everything was ahead of time, just so I know what's going where. And now I'm going to pin it to the new connector. This is a 9-pin connector. I think the big ones are your 12-volt switch power and ground here. So if we zoom out there a little bit, drop that. All right, so I've depinned this thing fully, but what I wanted to show you with it off, because this is usually the hardest part for people, right? How to get these depinned. So this white piece here, all right, so let's show it. Take something like this, you don't even take anything crazy, just put it down in there, and literally it should just pop up like so. So see that? See it's popped up? Now you can pull it out the whole way, and it makes it even easier. So take like a pair of needle nose pliers or something and just whoop, pull out completely, and it's easier to get the little tabs that are inside, which again, it's hard to show on camera, to then depress and pull the pins out. Again, if you're just gonna cut, you can do it. I just wanted to save as much wire as possible. Plus I wanted to save this connector, God forbid I want to reuse it. I was like, man, let's keep it. Now, for the next setup, or for the new pins and plugs, I was hoping they use the same pins. Unfortunately, they don't. They use a smaller one. The two big pins are actually what the small pins are on this one, and there's a smaller one now that replaced the small ones that were on this. I'm not sure why, because there's no like heavy voltage. It should always be the same size pin. I'm not sure why Toyota does that, but they do. So let's show you that connector. So here are the connectors side by side, the new one versus the old one. You can see here the pins on it, the pin holes are much smaller. It's very basic still. Now the bottom side you'll see is different also. You'll notice there's no white pin in this. What you will notice though is on this side there's this white little clip here. This is what needs to be pulled out. So it's already pulled out now, but you don't want to pull out the whole way. If you pull out the whole way, the pins need to feed through it, and then you click them and lock them in place. Where this can be fully removed, this one cannot. So you just pull it out so it sits. See how it's sitting like flush with the plastic there? You want to make sure you do that. Then you can press your pins in. Now the one thing that's going to be a little bit more difficult too is I'm using a larger gauge wire, so it's not going to be as friendly. And that's where we're really going to notice it when we go over to the 30-pin connector. I'm not sure, it's not going very well for the fact that it's got 20 gauge wire there. It needs like 22 or maybe even 24 gauge wire because that's what it was designed for. So it's making it a little tough. I'll show you guys trying to get this in, but let's get the Prindle done first, and then the 30-pin, I'm still working on the wiring, but this should be ready and raring to go. All right, guys, so a lot has happened. I've got it 99.9% wire here. That's gonna be a little hard, so I'm gonna try and explain this, and then I'm gonna go over the spreadsheet here. I also got my new Dummy Works mount. The original one he had sent just didn't work. The holes were not aligned, and another thing I had him do is, if you notice here, we've shifted it forward. So it used to be it lined up here at the back and didn't come here. So it came like this, came up and out. The problem with that is, again, most of us Supra guys have a 4-inch exhaust. So I said, hey, when you make the new one, shift it forward and notch it here. It might even need some more clearancing depending how your exhaust is ran, because again, this 4-inch exhaust really comes through this galleyway here. You see how the body literally curves out here. So if it's not right up against it, you might have to do some clearancing. But again, I at least asked him to push this forward as much as possible. We could probably go even more forward, and this could probably be, you know, instead of it cutting here, it could probably start at this point and come over and transition. But yeah, I mean, with the 4-inch exhaust, they really come close. So again, until I get it all mounted up, we won't know for sure. But I did want to show that. And again, big shout out to Dummy Works to actually taking, you know, feedback. Most guys tell you to go kick rocks. So there is that. Now, I'm going to show you the spreadsheet here then, but Prindle is done. We went through it. That is all said and good and done. Okay. Now for this here, you can see we've got one wire. For this one wire here, this is going to be the power for the ECU. So this was originally one of the wires that went to the Prindle for the A340. So I repurposed it. It's just one single wire. I wouldn't have a Deutsch connector, so it wasn't hardwired in. So I could pull this out if needed. I wish I had a 1-pin, but it'll be fine. Again, this is already wired in for my, this here is for my pressure sensor. Again, that takes care of that. So let's come to this side here. So this is the one that's a lot more complicated. So let's actually pull this off. I don't think I even have it snapped on right now, do I? No, I don't. So let's, oh man, that thing is tight. What is going on there? So there we go. It was already kind of somewhat on. Come on, baby. It is a tight fit. And this is not the prettiest right now, but there we go. So that's what we've got right now. These wires here, this is all power. So there's all 20 gauge wires. I've ran them all together. You put 2 pins into this, and then I have a, oh crap, what is it called? a bus bar. They make a Deutsch bus bar, so it'll share all the power across all those pins. And this one wire here running up across, which again, I don't think it's the prettiest. I'm gonna have to redo some of this, will work. Then I've got this all pinned in here, except for one pin I'm missing, which again, I will show you on the spreadsheet where it goes. But that takes care of everything. That is every pin, but you can see how many are not used here. So let's get a little closer. See all those little gray plugs? That's all not being used, because I'm not using the input and output shaft speeds right now because they are a Hall effect or a Hall effect sensor. And then I'm not using the factory speed sensor, which is also Hall effect, because I used a wheel speed sensor. So that takes up, that's a total of 6 or 7 wires there. And then there's a lot, again, I'm going to show you on the spreadsheet itself. So let's get over to that and let's discuss it some to try and make this as easy as possible. I don't know if I've talked about this either. Here's our drive shaft, which I have already installed. And again, just uses the same guibos as before. Here's our shift rod that I've cut down and welded and is all fitting in there perfectly. It all works, but you guys saw that too. All right, so we're back inside here. Let's start going over this. We're going to start with the PRNDL first and foremost here. So let's come in. So this is my little schematic that came from the Toyota book here that's telling you the ins and outs. Again, this makes life easy, and this is just going over the pin stuff, which I've already discussed with you guys earlier in the video. So here it goes over everything. So pin 1 through 9, which is, this is at the PRNDL, what its function is, what wire color, if it's being used or if it's not being used. So in this case, I actually want to take this off. That doesn't need to be here. Let's delete that. That just needs to be wire color there. So in this case, we're only using a total of 5 wires. So we have our park, which is our gray-green, which goes to pin 6. Then we have our neutral, which is pin 9. Then we have, or sorry, it goes to reverse, which is pin 1. Then to neutral, pin 9. Then to drive, which is pin 7. And I did pin in low in the number 8, but realistically, I don't even need that. Just for the fact that once it's in drive, I will just either keep it in drive or hit a button and put it into manual mode. So I don't need this either, but I just pinned it in because there's already wires there. So I was like, meh, why not? Okay. So that makes it pretty easy. Again, this is everything right here. So if you need to screenshot this as I go through it, guys, and make your life a little bit easier. So let's come over here to the 30 pin. This is the one that took the most time. So let's do it like this. So like that. There we go. So our numbers here on the side, anything in green is something that's not being used, okay? Anything in green, not being used. And again, this is where I'm going to go over some of the speed sensors we didn't use. So we've got the speed sensor NT up here, speed sensor NC3, which I think one of these is the input, one's the output. I don't know. Another speed sensor down here. We're not using this SP2. So those are the ones. Now this one here, this SLT here, we are using. So again, it's only what's in green. And the stuff that says no pin, it's just even from the factory, they weren't being used. So no pin means not being used. What's another one here? I think it's pretty much these speed sensor ones. Now, and then an oil pressure switch, which is for an internal oil pressure. We're not using that. I'm using an external sensor. So I wasn't using this pin 17. So I did not need that. Now, for everything else, if there's a positive for the speed, which is, in this case, it's actually a pressure sensor. I don't know why it's listed as speed, but it's a pressure sensor, which it says here, automatic line pressure control solenoid. So it shouldn't say speed, but in this case, it's going to receive an 8 amp high current output, or you can use 25 amp. These don't take a whole lot, but it's up to you. If you have extra 8 amp or you have an extra 25 amp, you can dictate there, but realistically, you only need an 8 amp high current output, because they just don't take a whole lot. And I'm sharing one 8 amp across the board. You'll see here D1, D1, meaning that I'm sharing that through all of it, which you kind of saw when I looked at that 30 pin connector. You saw all those orange wires. That's all shared one power. Okay. So for this here, you're going to be using a DPO, or you can use an injector output, okay, to tell it to pulse width modulate this, because you're going to have to pulse width modulate all of these pins. So in my case, I didn't have enough DPOs, but I have a ton of injectors open, so I started using those. You can see here A17 and 18 DPOs, using those for my 2 shift solenoids here, 5 and the SLT. Then you're also going to need to use a half bridge. You need 2 half bridges for the shift solenoid SL and then the shift solenoid SR. I'm not sure exactly why, and we'll have to get into that more as we get into this more. Again, this is coming from Sean at Sean Tune. I'll list his information down below. He's the one helping a ton with this. And maybe I can even get him on conference call and we can discuss it even further so you guys have more information. So this is going to be a multi-part series. This is just going to be video 2. We'll probably have to have a 3rd or a 4th video. Now, coming down here again, you'll see SLU and S4, again, injector 11 and 12 for outputs. Then 1, 2, and 3 here, we're using 13, 14, and 15, again, sharing that 8 amp power, which is the orange wire. And again, you can see it's 12 volt switch power. So these here, the ones for D1 and stuff, that's all going to be powered on all the time. So once the car's switched on, those all have constant power, but they're not
on physically taking power until this injector or anything like a digital pulse output, pulse width modulate. It's only on when it's being pulsed or told so. So it's a fall to ground scenario. So there's constant power and then a fall to ground scenario. Where in our case, it is a digitally pulsed output. From what we're finding out too, apparently a lot of these solenoids are on all the time, just at a very low amount. So not taking a lot of draw, but they're all on all the time. Again, that's more. We're going to get into it, but I wanted to show this. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And again, this is my little chart that I've made. And if you're seeing here, added wire, old pin location, old pin function, ignore this stuff. Even wire color doesn't really matter to you guys because your harnesses are all going to be different for me. This is information for myself to keep my brain in the right aspect for the fact that where it was before, what I was using it for, if I need to ever switch it back to an A340. And I did have to add some wire because it wasn't quite long enough. Wasn't too happy about it, but it is what it is kind of scenario. Because I want to just pin over. I don't ever like cutting up a harness, especially something that Jose has done so nicely. So that's what is there. I mean, I'm hoping this makes life easier, but there's only 2 total connectors on this guy. So there's not a whole lot. But you want to be cognitive of all this. Now from here, I just need to wait for Sean to get into the computer and we can start making these big boy changes. So another thing I wanted to go over too, now that we've gone over a lot of the wiring, and I do apologize for that. I didn't realize the screen was going to be like that. So I wanted to at least pop it up at the end so you guys can screenshot it and you can see it a little bit clearly, a little bit more clearly, but at least I talked over it. So you guys get the gist of all of this. But I want to talk about fluid. It takes around 11 to 12 quarts. I actually have to go get more. I talked to ATF and this is what they recommended, or you can use the stuff from Toyota. It's up to you, but you can get this at your local store. It needs to be a Dextron 6. Mercon doesn't matter. It just needs to be Dextron 6. And he recommends the Valvoline. And for all this stuff, for all of this stuff, I'm just going to do whatever they say. So, fluid's something I don't like to mess up or screw with. So just get that. I did have a hard time finding this stuff. I'm not going to lie, especially you need 12 quarts. I went to Wally World and they didn't have it. Now, when you first fill it up, you're going to get like 6 to 7 quarts in it and it's going to start spilling over. And then there's a whole process. You got to go through the gears. I'm not going to go through that today. You guys can watch the videos. There's people out there with ISFs that have done this a million times. You guys can find those videos. But the only thing I will show you is the fill port is right here. It is like a 24, 25 millimeter, something crazy. That's your drain. And then this is a overflow port. So after you get it up and running, you get more fluid through it. Then you put more in it and then you let it get to like 110 degrees. Check this with a heat gun or a temp gun and go burn. See the temperature, crack this open and then whatever excess is there drains out. And then that's got a perfect level. That's how it gets away. If you notice, there's no dipstick unlike the A340, which with the A340, I'll be honest, never really read the best. So never really gave a shit about it. So we'll see how well this works. I'm following what the Toyota book said to do. And yeah, I also have the full exhaust on now. I had to make one more adjustment here. I had to grind this down, unfortunately. Now he's making one more adjustment mount and it's going to come way over. So we don't have this problem again. This is a specific Powerhouse Racing exhaust, which is aftermarket with an aftermarket transmission brace. So he can't calculate for this stuff, but he's going to bring it over and up as far as he can so we can rule this out. But every exhaust is different. A lot of other companies don't cut over so soon. A lot start cutting over like right about here. So it's like straight here and then cuts over. Powerhouse just cuts it a little bit earlier there. So he's going to make that adjustment for me and for everyone else. It does fit up here nicely. So it fits there. Fits young. Your lines have plenty of room, and I did heat wrap them, but yes, there's exhaust here, but it's not touching, and it's not like it's up by the manifold, and this is just how like it was with the A340. This could come up a little bit, but I have it here with these 2 clamps to hold it together, and it's not below the body. It is close, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to try and not go over any branches, and I have a panel that goes underneath here too. So that is where we're at right now. I'm still just waiting for this darn sensor port, which is very specific. It's been a bit of a PETA to try and find. So that's what I'm waiting on right now. And, can I even see it there? That little guy right there. See that little thing? That is where the sensor port goes. So just waiting on that. And once I get that, we're good to go. All right. So here's the part number from Tipco. So this is a company that was based out of Hanover. Apparently this is like a chain, in my area, but they were able to get me a 15 that is a, 5/16. So whatever I could get to fit directly the transmission right there is a SAE. So it's 5/16 to an 1/8 inch MPT. Then I used a 90-degree fitting there, as you can see, into my pressure sensor. So it would fit, and it works out really well. Again, Sean from Sean Tunes, the one, hey, use this pressure port here. It shows all 8 gears. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll use all 8 gears through this one. So that's all done. Only thing I'm waiting on now is literally just the
bus connector that goes there, and the car is ready to run.
All right, guys, I think this is where I'm going to end this video at, just because you saw everything that we need to do for the most part. The next is going to be the tuning side of it, which is going to be a lot more involved. So I need to sit down, and it's going to be something I show, and it's probably going to be like an hour long. So don't want to draw this out too long because then these videos get boring, but at least you guys have this second step of the video. So again, guys, questions, concerns, let me know down below, but we're getting very close. Sorry, it's just little things holding me up. So yeah, it's getting there. Plus I've got Tony's car, which is now the new project that needs to be worked on. So yeah, it's been quite the process, but guys, thank you very much for this. I'm excited to see this all work. I'm hoping this works out the way we think it is. Yeah, talk to you later. Peace.